Hi, everybody. Okay, let's get started. Make sure everything is working. We are at 12:06 a.m. on August 17th, 2026. And hope everybody had a great Sunday. It was pretty hot here. It was pretty hot here. So, but a lot going on behind the scenes. Okay, looks like I'm live. Good to go. Let me know if I hope you can hear me. I'm showing that everything's working. So let's get started. We are on 2,204 days, I believe so. Let me make sure. See if it's on here. See if it's working on. Looks like everything's working. Yep, 2,205 days. Yeah, since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room there on Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. That's our son, the Fort Bliss whistleblower soldier, Richard Halliday, who was whistleblowing on the trafficking, the fuel theft, the orchestrated Walmart mass shooting. Even the evidence indicates that he was warning about plans being made for the Walmart mass shooting. His reports were blocked. His requests for after his reports were blocked, he requested a transfer. Those were denied, and a code red was issued. They forcibly took him out of his room and drug him down to the basement room, the arms room. It's a secure room. Not everyone has a key to that room, but the platoon leader would, and that's the prime suspect in our son's case is platoon leader Dallas Hart. And that's where in this arms room, soundproof room, they took his life. They then, with their cartel terrorist infiltrated network on Fort Bliss, they were able to steal Richard's body off of Fort Bliss and traffic him to Mexico for disposal. And all the evidence we have, and we're very sure that his remains were disposed of at the Plenitude Crematorium, where recently, well, it's been a year, uh, they're they're doing a big cover up, but over 400 bodies were found in rotting conditions, rat infested, no air condition, in this funeral home that is connected to Grupo Purchase. Grupo Purchase is very big in this whole investigation. I'm going to tell you, it's getting bigger and bigger. They really have a monopoly. Well, not a total one, but they're very big on funeral homes, crematoriums, cemeteries, on the Chihuahua, Juarez side, and then, of course, in Texas and El Paso. In Texas, y'all, in more places than just El Paso, and then, of course, New Mexico. So, the all of these um, connections with the trafficking, with the fuel theft, with the fraudulent documents, handling bodies and what they do with them and everything. That is all being investigated. And and this is what we want is our son's remains, right? We want our son's remains. We want full honors for his remains, for his namesake. We want full honors. That's why we do have a petition out. You can search that, a petition to have his file looked at and because we really feel like he deserves a Purple Heart. So, for his very courageous and loyal, um, in the line of duty, in the line of duty, stand as a whistleblower on the infiltration on Fort Bliss of the cartels. And Richard stood against them and did the right thing. And on base, he lost his life on American soil, and they disposed of his remains in Mexico, which makes this an international crime. So, got a few things going on. We have something out of the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals court, um, and I hope the Fifth Circuit, which is the Texas. Texas 5 years ago passed a law for election integrity, IDs for absentee ballots, and now, there's been a lot of fighting with that, especially from Lisa Weiss, right? The lady that runs the elections there in El Paso. Now, why would she not want election security, right, or identity on on absentee ballots, or mail-in ballots or whatever? Why would she fight that? And all her excuses were very, very lame, and so the court really put out a stern statement and sided with the ID that you have to show an ID for these ballots. Which is logical. Every country does it. Every country does it. So you just can't have somebody writing numerous ballots. You want to make sure that the election has integrity. And so this was very, very big. This was going to make President Trump very happy. And this is very important in Texas because we know there at the border they do a lot of fraud. And Lisa Weiss knows that. She has family all along the Texas border, well, where it counts in the Rio Grande and in El Paso, right? So, she has family in these cartel terroristic corridors. You would think that she would really want these security measures, right? So what's that telling you? There's a lot of red flags going up for me with Lisa Weiss, a lot of red flags, right? And especially because we know that there's complaints about her, right? We know that there's the Firo case where I think it's up to 15 warrants for arrests. I don't know how many have been arrested. I think a lot of them um, for election fraud, election tampering and fraud. Um, yeah, so and that's right by Hidalgo, right? That's right by County Hidalgo, which I think is part of what's going on along that part of the border. Um, and I think she's party to that case a little bit. I think so because of SB1. Um, yeah, so there's just a lot of fraud with elections. That there's no doubt about that, and we need some measures to keep our elections safe and secure and with integrity. And why she's fighting that, there's just a lot of red flags on that one. So the other thing is why, we've been trying to keep up with all of the actions going on. And one of those actions is that the Mexican authorities said that they were a month ago, or maybe it was over a month ago, couple months ago. I'm losing track of time. It's been months. It's been months, y'all, that the Mexican authorities said that they were um, wanting a red Interpol or a Interpol red notice for Jose Luis Arellano Caron. And there should be for all of that family, right? That group of purchase um, also, right? For this a red notice, um, which would be a fugitive. He is a fugitive. This would really apply to Jose Luis Arellano Caron. Um, why isn't there a notice out? It doesn't take months to get a notice out, okay? Especially with him. He has a long history of violations, and we're talking about 400, over 400 bodies there that were left rotting, right? Yeah. So I don't understand unless there's birds of a feather that are flocking together to block, just telling the public, oh, yeah, we're going to try to get an Interpol red notice. Because once you have a red notice, then you can't do business. You can't do business in like over 100 countries. You can't bank. You can't, So the red notice is very important for this to capturing Jose Luis and anybody that is harboring him. Um, I wouldn't want to be them. I wouldn't want to be them. So, and that goes into Um, and of course, if you don't know who Jose Luis Arellano Corona is, the one of the owners for the Plenitude Crematorium, where over 400 bodies were being flesh peddled in the most horrific conditions, with no air condition, no potable water. Um, Years, these bodies piled up like trash, rat infested. You can't even imagine in Mexico, right along the border of Texas. Um, yeah, the conditions I just can't even imagine. And the formaldehyde and the body fluids and stuff like that were not regulated, were not, there was no inspections. And so that all those fluids were going into the drinking water of the people of Juarez. This is just crazy, absolutely crazy. So, um, why isn't there a red Interpol notice um, issued? It doesn't take that long. It just doesn't take that long. So, there's some really big news. Thank you, Anicia, for coming on, for your love and your prayers. There's There was a huge operation at the border, a binational show of force. That's what they're calling it, because U.S. and Mexico are absolutely working together. They're working together to stop this Huachical and the Huachical fiscal. And I did just post up on the Facebook site, find Richard Halliday, that the definitions of Huachical, an explanation of what Huachical is and Huachical fiscal is, and U.S. and Mex because they lose so much money, right? They because of the avoidance of taxes, they've gotten very sophisticated with everything, um, and so Texas and also Chihuahua, Mexico were losing so much money. Where was that money going? In somebody's pocket, right? In somebody's pocket. So, you know, Mexico and the United States are very happy to be working together to stop this kind of theft, right? That funds, we know that it funds the cartels and the trafficking. So the fuel theft is what funds all the other crimes. And, it really makes huge sense because you have to have a lot of money laundering, a lot of shell companies and everything like that to handle these big sums of fuel theft money. And so what are you going to do about it? You've got to have law and order. President Trump is absolutely saying we want law and order. Todd Blanche, the new Attorney General, he came out and said we are very, very serious about restoring law and order. President Trump wrote us, and one of the things that he said to us in the letter was he is super, super serious about restoring order, law and order, law and order. So this is the message that is out there, and it's being repeated and repeated and repeated because, President Trump means it and is telling the truth, and that's what he's working towards. So it's not rocket science, right? He's telling us, and the evidence is absolutely corroborating what he's saying. Um, and this is really good for us because he also said a lot of things in the letters that um, is very hopeful for us to get our son's remains and and then to also get justice. So it's um, we're getting there. We're getting there. But this binational show of force between the United States and Mexico was right there on the border, and they had their helicopters. They were rappelling from the helicopters. They had all kinds of DEA, ATF, FBI, the Texas Military Department, the Texas Department of Public Safety. So, yeah, CBP, Air and Marine, U.S. Attorney's Office was there, the U.S. Consulate in Juarez was there, and they were all participating in Homeland Security, um, along with the Mexican counterparts. The Mexican counterparts um, were there, and what they were saying is, we are on our way to be 100% border secure. So, to 100% border security um, is their goal, and this is looking really, really, really good. The cartel, La Linea, Juarez cartel, has been terrorizing both sides of the border for decades. Leaders of those cartels have made billions of dollars trafficking from Mexico into the U.S. In doing so, they've destroyed the lives of millions of Americans. And I would even say, add to that quote, because that's a quote, um, also to millions of Mexicans. This is about Mexican sovereignty as well as American sovereignty. And, a good fence makes very good neighbors, okay? Because you respect each other's territory and sovereignty and land. And the cartels do not respect that. The El Paso cartel, Maru Campos doesn't respect that. She's absolutely being investigated for treason just for disrespecting Mexican sovereignty. And so this is, and giving CJNG, they don't care. They don't want it, any kind of inspections at the border. That's why they had infiltration at the CBP, infiltration at the FBI and the ATF and in the military. They had their infiltration because they didn't want to abide by the laws. They wanted to get around it. They wanted their own men in there, or women, meaning men, meaning their alliances, their men and women, so that they could finagle the legal system, the law system, to get around laws, to get around inspections. They wanted to operate like Plenitude Crematorium with no permits, with no inspections. They, you know, rotting bodies and just hell on earth. So, that's what you get when you want to skirt the law. So, the next big thing that I wanted to talk about is this recent debate with Candace Owens. And, you know, it's if you're following all of that and the whole Charlie Kirk um, trial and all of that, you absolutely understand that there is something very wrong on both sides going on. On both sides going on. Really, it's something really crazy wrong is going on. Um, and this is, become such a moneymaker. And we were absolutely part of this for a short time before we stepped back. When Jeffrey Epstein's files came out, we stepped back and we're very glad. I'm saying that, God has his hands on this case over and over, and that's a good example, because that kept us from getting into the fray too much with this group, okay, with Candace Owens. And I can tell you that her she might be in big trouble because she just admitted that she had a source, and that source was Joe Kent. Okay. And we absolutely know and reported on that months ago, um, right before we had decided to step back because we were, of course, in communication with Mitch Snow and other Stu Peters, um, who were in alliance with Candace Owens, and we know that they talked to Candace Owens about us. We were in communication with Candace Owens also, but not like with Stu Peters and um, Joe Kent. And, you know, when the release came for the Jeffrey Epstein files, we told Stu Peters that we wanted to put, just delay our communications with him until we fully understood what was going on. And he wasn't too happy with us. And that told us a lot, because what's the problem? If we want to delay speaking with him, um, give it a little time so that we have the right answers, that should be no problem for him. But it was a problem. And that reaction told us a lot. So we knew that because of those communications, that they were all in communication with each other. We also know, because of our family meeting with Tucker Carlson, we know that there are anomalies there too, huge anomalies, and not in the favor of Tucker Carlson. Okay. Um, Something is not right with this group. Okay. Something is not, and I hope they find the answer. And I hope the trial finds the answer to who shot Charlie Kirk and who is behind it. I really hope so. But the bigger issue for us is the leaking, right? And Candace Owens confirmed that the intelligence agency, that the counterintelligence director, right, Joe Kent, was in communication with a podcaster. And I know she's married to the Englishman, right? To the Englishman, which, puts up some red flags for me because, of course, we lived in Ireland and Europe for a long time, and we're Anglican on top of that. Um, so we under we understand the battle that is going on in Great Britain right now. And it's not a good battle, and a lot of fraud. And I had the opportunity to visit Great Britain and England and tour it. And and I was alone during the day doing that. It's kind of a long story, but so I went to my favorite historical places by myself and talked to, and I'm not too shy, and just talked to the English people. So what's going on in England and Great Britain is pretty traumatic. You think what's going on in the United States is a lot of turmoil and chaos. It is, phew, um, it's worse there. I can say that. And so, just having those red flags and, um, because of the level, it's society level and everything. Um, that makes me a little cautious about Candace Owens. And I now, a year after, I think it's been a year since Charlie Kirk was shot, and everything going on now, and getting her information like that leaked to her like that, her being able to call Joe Kent and say, "Hey, why don't you vet um, Mitch Snow for me?" Right? Or was there some other thing going on? And then to have them collude, conspire together, which they're doing as a team, which is fine. They have the same cause or whatever. Um, with Tucker Carlson, and knowing that Tucker Carlson met with our family and was disingenuous, was disingenuous. And I'm trying to be as careful and as kind as I possibly can. But I can tell you that things are a little stinky. They're a little stinky when it comes to this group. And so that makes me question their motives and even their narratives, even though I question the other side also. But the other side doesn't seem to be playing these stinky games, these kind of backstabbing games, these disingenuous games, like what Candace Owens is doing and Tucker Carlson and others. So it tells me this is very political. And those that are truly helping to get to the bottom of Richard's case, one that I know really, really well, and the Walmart mass shooting case, one that I know really, really well. And I want to put in Julio Cordero's case in there too, because you know that the FBI is not going to stand for an FBI agent like Julio Cordero to be killed like he was and not respond and not investigate. And there's a lot of things around that that's not right. So, And the ones that are really doing that is President Trump. Just like President Trump's administration is the one that is really going after the trafficking, stopping the trafficking, securing the border, going after the watchical fiscal. And if you don't know what that is, it's the fuel theft and the more sophisticated fuel theft called watchical fiscal, where it involves forgery and fraudulent paperwork to get around taxes and all that stuff. So it is President Trump that is um, making a difference with this. And, that shows me that they're very disingenuous, Candace Owens and like Tucker Carlson, because he just interviewed Biden's son, Hunter Biden, like giving him this platform while being disingenuous to us. And, it's just creepy. It's just creepy. And it tells you that there is, uh, well, birds of a feather flock together. And so there is a cartel terroristic organization. And there are those that aid and abet it. Okay? That can facilitate, aid, and abet terroristic organizations. And so I put up the quote at the news conference, the press conference of this operation that the United States, multiple agencies or institutions of the United States got together with the Mexican agencies, institutions that they got together at the border, and there was a press conference when they were showing force, and because they are building extra wall there right near Big Bend, which they need to do because if you go to Google Earth and you look at that location, it's just wide open, whereas further down there's canyons and things like that. So, uh, there needs to be a wall there because uh, the the damage done to Mexican sovereignty and American sovereignty and to the finances of the people and the cost of fuel is just it's you can't even calculate it because it's been going on for so many years. So at this news conference, the quote is the Border Patrol Special Operations Supervisor Hamid Nikarisht, I don't know if I said that right, sorry, stated that the message to cartels and criminal organizations has been and will be very clear. If you have engaged with terroristic activity, if you are a member of a terrorist organization, or if you have provided material to support these terroristic organizations, you will face severe legal and immigration consequences. So, all of this support, all of these actions like with the Jensens, what are they going to do with the Jensens, right? I mean, they're indicted. But all the people that help them, all right? We know that there is 175,000 visas that were revoked. Now you know why. Because these operations are huge operations. The fuel theft, watchical, huge operation. Because they use the ports, they use the boats, They use the trucks to transport, right, and transfer. They also use planes. They also use trains, and they have to cross borders. And there is a whole network of individuals involved in supporting these terroristic organizations' operations. And that's why, you had to secure the economy first before you went after this network. Because as you arrest these people and take down the network, there's I Pencil. Remember the movie I Pencil? Because there's a coffee shop, and I'm just doing it from the movie I Pencil. But you have a person that's traveling in a truck, even if it's criminal, but they still have to eat. They still have to stay in a hotel somewhere. They still have to live, right? And that living and traveling is and eating in restaurants and buying certain things. That's the economy. And it is we have the scene, the criminality of it, right? The criminal transport, theft and transport and the trafficking of all the things that they're doing. We can see that, but then there's the unseen economy, the him buying the pie, right? From the cafe that needs to sell the pies in order to pay her rent. So it's the unseen that you have to be really careful with because you don't want to destroy the lady that's making the pies, right? Um, so you have to strengthen your economy first before you take on these terroristic organizations' operations that have been going on for so long. And so, you see President Trump has thought about this. And as soon as he got into office the second time, he just came in running, didn't he? He just came in running, and he has been applying everything that he has thought about and told the people that he was going to do. And so you see tariffs economy to bring manufacturing back into the United States. You have the shutting down of U.S. aid going to fraudsters to make them more um, uh, palatable to other young people that might want to become fraudsters too, right? You can't do that. You have to have people that are willing to take on legitimate jobs, and that is in the manufacturing, right? So manufacturing jobs, the things that make a country great, farm jobs, manufacturing jobs, creating jobs, inventing jobs, hands on jobs. And so this is what President Trump has been bringing in. It's very clear. You see it everywhere. And that's why I'm a little bit curious to really what these data centers are, because I'm like, I'm not sure if I believe the narrative of what they actually are. Because I know there's a lot of mutiny and everything going on. And that's why we're so patient with our son's case. But he has been really, look, he came in January. Um, Designated Richard in the line of duty. Then the next other things happened, of course, but in June there was a raid on the Plenitude Crematorium, right? Then there was a reback to the Plenitude Crematorium. People might not remember this in August, in early August, August 4th to be exact, it started. A Where they brought in um, we got like radar, sonar devices into Plenitude Crematorium. The next thing we know, on the 6th, he's writing a letter to us. On the 7th, he's writing a letter to us. He puts it in the mail. The 6th and the 7th, we receive it. Um, and then some other things happen uh, in that timeline that I'm not at liberty to tell you right now. So, things are not just coincidences, right? Things are not coincidences. He's been moving very quick in our son's case, and while doing that, doing all of these other things all around the world, right? To secure manufacturing in the United States, which working with Mexico and with South America, right? With all the countries, he has an alliance, but he's working with Mexico um, to rid of the criminal pipelines of trafficking and fuel theft and everything. And now he just made a deal. It's called the Mecca Pact, where Saudi Arabia, the purpose of this pact, and I don't know if it's going to happen, let's see if it works. It is to really put more oil into the market to bring the price of oil way down, to make it not even affordable or even profitable uh, for the cartel to even want to steal the fuel. Okay, they won't even they won't make any profit doing it. So, which is a brilliant move, an absolutely brilliant move. So look up the Mecca Pact and you'll see that. And what is that going to do? That's going to put the cartel, weaken the cartel even more, especially the El Paso cartel, right? The El Paso cartel operative, Alejandro de la Vega Foster, the double agent that is really behind, like getting Cesar Peniche in, getting Carlos Manuel Salas in, which, now you know why we don't have a red Interpol notice or Interpol red notice in yet, because it's supposed to be Carlos Manuel Salas that gets that done. Of course, birds of a feather flock together. We know he's rotten. We know he's dirty. And, we know that he will do whatever to protect this group of purchase and the Arellano Carone family. It doesn't matter if there's 400 rotting bodies in all these victims' families. He doesn't care about that. He cares about the cartel terroristic organizations and protecting them. Very clear in all of his records and what he has done, and that. So, and this is, because of El Paso cartel and their scheming and everything in El Paso, right? There are a lot of scheming going on in El Paso. So, and special, and with Maru Campos, right? With Maru Campos. So, yeah, their if their power, if their money, because money is their power, that's why they care about it more than anything else. If their money dries up, then they can't have their put forth their influence to get Carlos Manuel Salas, a dirty AG, into office. They won't have the influence over Greg Abbott. They won't have the influence over um, uh, which person gets what contract and what bond, whatever, in El Paso. They won't have that kind of power. And then you have more whistleblowers, right? Because these are these cartel terroristic organizations are the ones that went after the whistleblowers. Like Justin Underwood went after the whistleblowers, right? He's a cartel operative. that went after the whistleblowers in the Walmart case and even our son's case. He was working with Danae Katzen, right? So, uh, so if they get weakened, um, then people won't fear retaliation and they'll come forward and they'll speak more. So that's why we're very patient, because we know what this, if all this strategy works, it will mean that people will give information about Richard, and that's very important to us. So I hope that all makes sense. It is about weakening those that have been in power um, at the borderland for so long, and they're criminals, and taking away their power and giving it back to the people, giving it back to the victims' families, and and the regular person that just happens to see something, and then the officials that didn't like the way their office was being managed and everything, and that they would like to be a whistleblower. So, this is. I hope that makes sense, and that's what we believe. All of the current events are telling us, from the Mecca Pact to the show of force at the border between the United States and Mexico against the cartels, the election, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals approving that there needs to be ID shown when you're, get, you know, um, voting with a ballot. Uh, and of course, Lisa Weiss, why would she be against that? Well, we have our thoughts on that. Why? Some motives there. There is absolutely some motives there, and that means we hope we're not right, because it would be mean that she's up to no good, right? But we hope we're not right at all. We hope that she does her duty with election integrity. But we already know that there's complaints out against her for the way she's handled elections. So, yeah, but everyone deserves a second chance, right? Does everybody deserve a second chance? I don't know. I don't know. In Richard's case, I think they've had enough chances. I think they have. Okay. Um, Thank you so much for coming on, and please share, and also share our petition. And if you haven't signed it yet, please sign it. And thank you so much. God bless you, and I will be back tomorrow, God willing.